Hi guys, so welcome back to the Comfort Table. I'm Cian and this is Teal. So today we wanted to do a review of our no-buy year slash our depth year.
It's some time into the new year and we've had time to reflect upon what we did last year and also sort of actually crunch some numbers to take a very realistic look at what actually happened and whether what we wanted to achieve was actually achieved.
Yeah, so we thought like this is a good time to take the chance to reflect upon our no-buy slash depth year. So we're using them kind of interchangeably. We'll go more into like what each of our years were supposed to be and then like our reflections on it. But it's generally related to like not buying things in general.
So it's
yeah.
quite funny because we both decided to do this independently, and then when we told each other, it was like, I'm doing something similar.
Yeah. So maybe do you want to start by telling us what your no-buy year is about? Because I think yours is a bit more straightforward. Yours was 2021. the whole
2021. Yeah, so my no buy year, I'm gonna put no buy in quotes, was that I would aim to not buy anything new, but only replace things that were either broken or too worn down to continue using.
So you would just buy replacements,
Yes,
but there would be no new things that were bought.
yes.
Yeah, and then like I assume like other stuff like that you go through on a regular basis, like consumables would.
Yeah, for example, like
The
food
same.
or toiletries, of course, I would still have to buy them.
So the focus was really mainly on, I guess, the extra
Not
stuff
acquiring new things. Yeah, so for example, if I bought a new pair of shoes, it has to be because I need to replace an old pair.
Not just because it was like pretty or it was on sale
Yeah.
or anything like that. So is there a reason why you wanted to do a no-buy year?
I have been trying to reduce the number of things I have and to sort of get more use out of the things that I currently own. And so one way to do that would be to stop acquiring new things. Yeah, and another thing is because I'm also trying to spend my money more mindfully. I wanted to be aware of what I'm spending on and where the money is going to and whether I actually use the things that I buy.
So in a very similar vein of like getting more out of what you have, so mine is slightly different from Teal's in the sense that mine, I didn't really call mine a no-buy year. Mine is technically a depth year. As of recording right now, it is technically still ongoing. I still have about 1 month left of it, but I think I've gone through enough of it to be able to make some reflections at this point in time. So my depth here really comes from this article from Reptitude, but the summary of it is basically going deeper and not wider with what I have. So getting more out of what I already have or whatever interests I already have. Getting more of the things I have, the hobbies I do, or the whatever I have. It may not be just limited to things per se, but I think a very close component of the depth here, knowing or using the things I have more deeply rather than like acquiring new things, it also kind of goes towards like no buy in that sense. Like if I want to go deeper with the things I already have, it makes sense to just focus on what I already have instead of like acquiring new things. So that was definitely like quite a big component of my depth year, but I also strayed from it later, which we will talk about in the later part of the video.
Yeah, so that is the rules of our no buy / depth year.
Okay, so moving on to what happened after we've gone through it. So, do you want to talk about the facts first or the feelings first?
Let's talk about the facts first.
Okay, let's go with the facts first. So you might have noticed that we have a laptop here today. That's Teal's one because we wanted to go a bit more into like the money aspects of it, or specifically Teal's one because I didn't set up like a spreadsheet of what I spent on for this.
Yeah, so I usually record my expenses every month. It's not like down to the exact item. So in my phone, I have an app where I record everything that I buy. And then at the
Same.
end of the month, I transfer it to a spreadsheet, but by category. So it's not like item by item. It's just like as in that month for that category, that amount. Yeah. So for the whole of 2021, I did it. Of course, I've been doing this for quite a few years now.
Yeah, same. We can talk about money in another video, but
So when I compared the numbers for 2021 with the prior years, I realized that actually my no buy year did not actually save me money. But then again, the point was not to save money. It was like to know where my money was going to,
yeah.
right?
Yes, and to not acquire
More things.
Yeah.
Okay, so the two like glaring categories where it overshot exceeded my expectations, exceeded historical data, whatever you chose to call it, would be food and toiletries. So I'll talk about food first. So one of the things that I changed, I guess.
Do you want to talk about the ones that went down
The
first?
ones that went down were
Like just to list a few. Or did they mostly stay the same?
They mostly stayed the same. So one thing that surprised me that didn't go down was clothing, because I didn't buy a lot of clothing. I thought I didn't buy a lot of clothing, but now when I did this and then I looked at it and I realized why the numbers didn't go down. So the thing is, it was no buy, but that was like no buying new things. I was allowed to replace things. So it just so happened that in 2021, all my shoes died. So I had to replace all of them. So for some context, I have like 4 pairs of shoes, slippers, work shoes, running shoes, and sneakers. So I replaced 3 of them. I replaced the slippers, work shoes, and running shoes. I didn't replace the sneakers because I don't really wear them that much. So I realized I didn't wear them enough to need to get a new pair, because I could survive without wearing that 4th pair of footwear. Yeah. And also I bought new pole shoes, which goes under clothing, but like...
I mean, the category is whatever makes sense.
Yeah. So that is why it didn't go down like I expected, but yeah, I guess things like that happen sometimes. Like everything just breaks at the same time. It's unavoidable. Yeah, overall, I spent more money than in 2020, ironically. But I think I bought fewer things. So the other category that went up was food, because instead of buying things, I guess I convinced myself that it was okay to spend on experiences, and part of experiences includes like dining out,
Right.
and because of COVID, we work from home a lot, so I bought like snacks, I bought like nice teas, and I also started having a coffee subscription. So I think this I'm sure some people may judge me for this, but like, so I buy coffee every month, and then I think it is a necessary expenditure, or it is an expenditure that improved my quality of life, because I'm not a morning person. I'm like definitely not a morning person, unlike Cian. So having nice coffee in the morning and the ritual of actually like brewing the coffee helps me to prepare mentally for the day ahead.
Yeah.
So it's not just like I wake up and then I make instant coffee and then I like open my work laptop in 5 minutes and I just start working. No. So I actually make it a point to wake up earlier and sort of enjoy my breakfast, enjoy my morning prep before I start work. So that puts me in a better mindset to start work. So yes, I justify that purchase.
But as a result of that, your clothing and your food expenses were actually higher than previous years.
Yeah, and the other thing that happened was like a donkey opened near my house. So
Donkey is a kind of like a hypermart kind of shop that sells a lot of stuff for like people who don't know what it is.
Imported from Japan. So I ended up buying a lot of snacks, which I am trying not to do this year.
Right. So like that's one of the benefits to recording all this, right? So you know.
So I actually because I track month by month, so I realized that the month that it started going up was the month that
Right.
yeah.
Right.
And the other thing that happened was I started going out once a month with my friends for drinks.
Drinks.
Yeah.
So the facts, technically you didn't, okay, so you technically also didn't really buy anything new. Like you didn't break the rule, but what happened was that in terms of like the money spent, it was like slightly more or like more than what you spent in previous years. But how do you feel about it?
I feel that it's money well spent, man. Because it's money that I'm spending mindfully. Yeah, to, I don't know, get nicer food, nicer experiences, spend time with friends. Yeah, and buying things that I need because I have like used them until they cannot be used, so it is something that is essential in my life.
So you also feel like better knowing that you're spending money to like, let's say, replace your shoes because they are something that you really need.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like a big part of this is like really the quality of how you spend your money. It's not like really no biasing that, you know, money is bad, you shouldn't spend on anything, but a bit of that has to come down to like the mindful spending and the quality of like the spending this money give me like in return some sort of satisfaction or enjoyment, and like how can I, you know, improve my quality of life with it.
I do have to like add this as a disclaimer that I'm pretty fortunate to be able to spend as I want. I guess I have a stable job for now.
Yeah. So
it's not like I did this no buy year because I was broke. Yeah.
Yeah, it's not, right. You just wanted to learn more about like your own spending habits.
Yeah.
So how do you feel about
How do I feel about it? It was tough at times because like I would see something on sale and the immediate instinct was like, it's on sale, man, I need to get it. So one thing I used to do was buy, like, justify clothing purchases
because they're on sale.
Because they're on sale and because I could wear it for work. But then what I learned from 2020 was that I'm not going into 2020, which therefore I could apply in 2021. Was that I'm not going to office much because of COVID, and nobody really notices what you wear at work, I think. So it's okay if you just keep wearing the same pair of like pants or blouse or whatever. So I didn't need as much work clothes as I thought I did. Yeah, so I actually did I? No, I bought like 2 t-shirts, which were not replacements.
Also, you did technically.
I did technically, but I also sort of like donated or threw away some t-shirts. So the net in and out is actually like a net out in the number of items, but yeah, I guess.
I mean, we're not here to nitpick on the particulars, but you know, more of like what the experience has.
But because of that, I realized what I liked wearing at work. And therefore, when I see similar things, I would just like buy it.
Instead of being tempted by whatever's on sale.
Yeah, and being tempted by like, this is the vision of what I have for myself as like a capable working adult, you know, earning big bucks. Like, this is my ideal working image of myself, but the actual is like
you don't actually want to dress like that for example, right? Yeah, that's what I realized also when I was working.
So what about you, Cian?
So my debt fear actually came from, I guess the biggest part of it actually came from my doll collection hobby, because I've done quite a number of like different, I don't know, I've gone through a few self-help books on like finances. I always want to recommend Your Money or Your Life by Vicky Roberts. I can't really remember her name.
We'll put it.
Yeah, but it's a really good book. If you have like zero idea about finances, I really suggest like that as a first book, because more than money, it talks about like similar to what we're saying. It's about whether the money that you're spending is worth it, because it's basically you're paying it with your time, which is a finite resource. So anyway, I've gone through a few of these things related to money, so I wasn't particularly concerned about that. But then I know for a fact, because I also like Teal, I also track my spendings on an app. So I know for a fact that the category that I always spend a lot on is my hobby, which is dolls. Like in all other categories, I'm very sure that I spend less than, my demographics, like my peers.
Very, very
I spend
thrifty.
very little on like clothing, very little on like, I don't really have to buy groceries because I live with my parents and they buy off that. Instead, I give them a monthly allowance, which is also kind of like my monthly rent, I guess, because I stay for free in their house, which anyway, that is a very common occurrence in Singapore, but
Yeah.
not the point. So the point is, the biggest expenditure that I have control over, technically I have control over, but I always find myself spending a lot on is dolls. So I wanted to really take a hard look at that. And as you know, I have another channel which is on my dolls and collecting dolls in general.
Ball jointed dolls is quite an expensive hobby as well, right?
Yes, so ball jointed dolls in general range from like $500 to $1,000. Mine generally on the higher side of that price range because of what I like, and then that's not counting the clothes, the wigs, the eyes, all the accessories that you buy for them. So it very quickly adds up, and I can spend a lot on them and like very little on myself. So I thought like I really wanted to do a depth year to look at how I'm spending on my dolls, and also because I make videos related to the doll collection hobby, right? So I think a big part of it is that I always feel like, oh, it's much easier to have content, like to put out a video by acquiring a new item, filming that, and then, presenting it to the audience. But I realized that that was also maybe a bit of a lazy or like an uncreative way to go about it. Like, it just seemed like the simplest way
To generate content.
yeah, and I felt like there had to be another way to do it without requiring me to keep buying new things. And I also felt very tired from having to do that. Like, maybe as an audience it looks really fun to keep getting new things, and I suppose there are some doll owners that will really enjoy getting new things very often. But for me, often I just feel like maybe, I don't know, is it like a feeling of guilt that, I'm letting all these beautiful things sit and like not playing with them that much, or like they are like being wasted by just like lying there because I don't have time or energy to play with them that much. But whatever the case is, and I know there's no real reason to feel guilty, but it doesn't change the fact that I feel that way. So I thought like maybe it's a signal that I can scale back on what I'm spending. So my depth year really started off with that as the major focus, and I've done a few videos where I did like a few check-ins on my depth year. But anyway, just briefly, right, outside of the doll hobby, I also did have a few aspirations for the depth year. So a lot of it was related to like paying more attention to what I already have, doing things like maintaining the items that I already have rather than maybe.
What do you mean by maintain?
So if like a piece of doll clothing has like some parts loose, I'll try to repair it instead of just like maybe immediately deciding, okay, I don't want to do much with this, I'm going to try and sell it off. Or like recently with my own my own pair of shoes, the sole came off, and then normally that would be like a reason to go and buy a new pair of shoes. But I thought like, hey, I do have glue that holds together pretty well. I have not tried the pair, I don't know whether it works. But I tried repairing it, and then my wallet, which has like a PVC coating, the fake PU leather always peels off, right? So instead of just like replacing it when that started flaking really badly, I decided to just like peel off all the fake PU leather layer and then like just reveal the cloth layer underneath. And I'm still using that wallet right now.
Very thrifty.
Yeah, so like I mean, to be fair, that idea of maintenance or repairing also came about as a result of the depth year. Like before that, I wouldn't really have done it. And then I also realized that I was basically branching into a lot of different interests. I was like, like even doing exercise, I was like, oh, maybe I should do yoga, maybe I should do weights, maybe I should do this, that. And then like as a result of changing what I was doing, I ended up buying new things as well. It kind of stopped due to the pandemic, but like for example, if I do weights, I will do it at the gym, and then I needed like a better sports bra for that. Or if I wanted to do running, then I needed sports shoes and also running bras. You know, so that was like back in 2020, 2019. That was like justification for different purchases. But like when I realized that I hate running, I decided to not replace my running shoes when the sole came off and it was like not repairable. And then like clothing wise, actually nothing much changed lah. So that's why to me it's like my depth year was really mainly about my doll collection. So like the facts of the matter is I bought new stuff and then I regretted it. And then I felt bad. Okay, so I go back and forth on it.
I guess that's because you were already like pretty thrifty with all other aspects of your life except your doll hobby.
Yeah. I think the thing with like buying is like, for me, I think there's a bit of like a sense of guilt for like buying more or owning more than I feel like I should have or I ought to have, although I don't really have a good idea of like where that standard comes from. Like there's no one saying like $10 is too much or 20 is too much or whatever the case is,
Or
right?
like 10 is not enough.
Yeah,
20 is not
so
enough.
I think I remember there was a few things. So when I was talking about maintenance, so one thing that I really liked to do before that and which I tried not to do was to buy new dolls. And then instead of buying new dolls, I tried to use that energy towards like maintaining my current dolls. So like cleaning them, restringing them, like that's what I mean by maintenance. But I feel like it doesn't quite how to say, it's not quite the same. It's like long-term versus short-term gratification.
Yeah, getting new stuff is always really exciting.
Yeah, but I don't like the lows after that first shot high. It's really...
But that only happens when you regret your purchase.
Yeah,
right?
correct. So,
Yeah.
so for a period, right, I was really doing like almost no buy. And then I thought really hard about whatever I did want to buy. So there were a few purchases that I made like last year, I think. Like I made like one batch of small Taobao purchases for my doll clothing. And then I thought really hard, like usually I would do like, oh, I like this item, does it fit one of my dolls? It does, I'll buy it. But then like for that, during that time I was really like, I want this item for this specific doll. And I thought really hard about why and whether I could get more use out of that item before I bought it. So I felt like overall that purchase was relatively... I don't have much regrets about it, but I mean, I do have a bit of regrets in the sense I feel like the quality wasn't that great.
Oh, okay.
But
So-
that could be a hit or miss anyway, like just because you're buying from a new shop or whatever, right?
So because you actually spend a lot more time thinking about whether to buy it or not,
Yeah.
so you avoided having the possible regret
Yes.
afterwards.
That was like the early part of my depth year. Then more recently, and like I haven't really made a check-in video since then, I actually suddenly bought a lot of new things. So I don't know really why it happens, but I think because I realized that my problem was not really with buying, but feeling like I wasn't getting enough out of whatever I was buying. So like if I feel like I'm buying a lot of stuff and just leaving them there and not doing much of it, then I felt really bad. So I was like, so recently if you see my main channel, there has been a few like box opening related stuff. There's like a box opening for a wig, for 2 doll heads, and then it should be out by the time this video is out, but there should be like also a whole like 3-piece doll suit. And another video that I didn't put on yet is that I bought a new doll body for a doll head that I had. So like doll head was like even earlier purchase, where I was like reflecting that, where at that point in time I was thinking really hard about what to buy, and then like suddenly this batch of purchases were a bit more of like I don't really know what I was doing. And then
Let's
after
say
that-
judgment.
yeah, I guess so. So like after that, right, I fell into this really low period.
Like, oh, I bought so many things.
I think, yeah, it's partly that, but also like I just felt very overwhelmed by whatever I had. Like I wasn't spending, I wasn't able to like focus on anything, and I was just like picking all the negative aspects of the different things that I had, and then I felt a bit like, why am I spending money to make myself miserable, right? And then I think a bit of that is also like maybe not related to the money itself, but the idea that like whatever we buy has to be exactly as we envision it, or it has to be like good, or it would, you know, improve your life, make your life
It has to be like
better.
the perfect item.
Yeah, but whenever it doesn't meet the expectation, then like there's a lot of disappointment because there's a lot of expectations placed on it. So, but it's kind of funny because, for example, the suit is really well made. It's from a maker that like has very good quality, but because it is exactly as I expect it to be, I didn't really feel that much like surprised at it. It is very well made. I honestly think it's a very beautiful set of suit. But then like, for example, the doll body, it was like value for money in the sense that it's like a bit cheaper than other bodies that I usually buy. But then because when it came, it was in a colour that was like darker than I expected, so it didn't match the head that it was meant for. Then I felt really upset about that for quite a while. And then I didn't really want to play with the doll for a while. And then I was just like, yeah, there was just a lot of feeling of like it might be easy to try and blame it on money, but I don't think it's just that. Yeah, I think it's my mentality towards spending and buying things in maybe in like a capitalist way. Because do you notice that nowadays, right, when people hear that they have a parcel, usually the reaction is like, oh great, you have something nice coming your way, or like, oh it's like a little highlight in your day, and that's the assumption for like most people towards most other people. Right, if you hear your colleague has a parcel, you're probably like, great, what's inside it, right? But then it's not always the case, I guess, and to expect it to always be the case maybe kind of makes the experience very one-dimensional. Yeah.
I think now my feelings towards ordering stuff and then the parcel being delivered is kind of like getting a monthly bill is just something that you expect. And it's not positive, but it's not negative either. It's just something that happens periodically. Yeah.
I feel okay about bills if I feel like they're justified, but if I feel like I'm paying too much for what I'm using, then I feel a bit like, yeah, it's time to change. I also did think like, if I'm spending so much on my dolls but not on myself, then like would spending more on myself make me more happy? But I realized that actually it's a bit funny because technically spending on my dolls is spending on myself. But like if I try to make a separation, because that really is a very big part of what I'm spending on, right? Minus like giving my parents an allowance. Yeah, if I separate that, then I realized actually I don't really spend much on anything else. I think the last thing I really bought for myself that was not for my dolls was like my yoga mat, which is a very good purchase. A cork yoga mat is, if you're willing to invest, it's really nice.
So did you decide to spend on yourself as well?
I did. I think, but I when I was thinking back on it, right, I don't think I bought a lot of things because I didn't feel a need to buy a lot of things for myself. Like, I think the things that really were good purchases for me are things that are kind of like body-based movement or care. So like a glass nail file.
I also recommend, yes.
Because like I like the slower process of filing my nails versus just cutting them, because also they end up smoother instead of having that like jagged edge that you get, like that rough edge you get just from cutting it.
I just cut it and then filed it.
I filed it completely using a glass nail file, so it's a bit slow. It takes like half an hour for like both hands, but I just do it while watching some show. And then like the yoga mat was really, really good. I might have purchased it like in 2020, but it's been a really good purchase so far. It's holding up, so whenever I do yoga on it, it feels really good. So that's like $100-ish well spent.
Yeah, I remember you asked me for yoga mat recommendations.
Are there any other thoughts that you have on like your no-buy year, or like my debt fear after you've heard all this? I feel like because we sort of came at it with different angles.
Yeah.
Like it sounds similar at the start when we talk about it, right? But then like as we talk about the actual experience of it is like really different.
I feel like I was a lot more nihilistic with my year. You were like, I don't know, kind of like,
I was doing it more for reflection rather than
yeah,
anything because I've already
were
done.
so stringent with yourself.
I don't know, because like I said, I've done quite a bit of like Marie Kondoing and purging, so I already know like in general for my like my non-door items what I spend, right? I don't really find super a lot of joy out of like getting myself okay, like certain things I enjoy, like getting myself a nice pair of like leather shoes which are still lasting and then you have to take care of them. They're my only pair of work shoes now.
I think the difference comes mainly from the fact that I spend on myself a lot more.
Yeah.
Yeah, so therefore the things that we chose to spend more mindfully on,
The categories
differs.
look different. Yeah.
But the intent behind it was pretty similar.
Yeah, I feel like we are just, I mean, based on how we spend, we're just different in that sense.
It's just like different manifestations.
We just
the
prefer
same.
spending differently,
Yeah.
right? I mean, we are spending in a way, I guess, that
Because for example,
best suits.
yeah, I
ourselves,
am not
right?
into the BJD hobby. So
Yeah.
obviously it is not possible for me to spend in that category.
Yeah, and like for example, I would not spend on like. I do spend a fair bit on food, but I've cut down recently because I've not been working.
And you would not spend like $200 on a haircut, right?
Yeah, I would not spend $200
Yeah.
on a haircut, but to me, it doesn't really make a difference to spend that money. So it's not like if I actually spend that money, I'll feel happier.
So it's whether
It's not like I'm losing out, you know.
it's not whether that purchase is expensive or not, or it's whether it's justified to yourself.
Yeah, and like, how happy are you spending a portion of your life energy exchange?
Like when you calculate your per hour wage, right?
Yeah.
So overall, are you satisfied with your depth year?
I would say it.
And are you gonna continue it for 2022?
I won't like deliberately continue it, but I think the lessons that I've taken away from it will stay with me, just like how the lessons from like my earlier like Marie Kondo, decluttering, and
So
like,
instead of something that
going through
you
the book.
actively do, it has kind of become
like a part
a
of
habit.
a part of what I'm doing,
Yeah.
and that would probably continue to evolve and change in the future.
I also feel the same way. Like I don't consciously think about what I spend on now. It's more of because I know myself better, so I know what not to buy and what to buy.
Yeah. I think the part that maybe I came to realize the most is that maybe like I'm not a stationary being. So like just because maybe in the past I've gone through all this like self-help books and whatnot and Marie Kondo my way through my own stuff doesn't mean that I will continue to be the same person that spends or uses things in the same way. And like maybe at certain times spending and buying things is necessary for what's happening to me at the time in my life, and then sometimes maybe not spending is the best thing for me to do, and like there's no reason to judge myself too harshly for like either way. And even if I feel bad about a purchase or feel bad about spending money or not spending money, it doesn't mean that it is a right or wrong thing to do. It's just I guess a reminder for me to really look at like what is this feeling trying to tell me, what is this experience trying to tell me. Yeah. And I don't have a proper conclusion. I don't think I'm gonna spend like more or less per se.
I'll try to reduce my food spending this year. That is something that I will do consciously, but all the other things, I think it's kind of ingrained into my subconscious by now.
I mean, for me, it's still back to dolls and trying to figure out like a good balance between buying something because I really would find some enjoyment out of it and taking a bit of a risk instead of only going for like what I know I would 100% like, but also like not
So not being too harsh on yourself.
Yeah, because like if I only buy what I know I 100% like, then I would never try new things. I think that's the problem, right? So you need to give yourself a bit of leeway, even if you want to do a no buy. Okay, that's all we have time for today. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time. Bye.